Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about NXT from November the 19th, 2024, in which Shawn Michaels bet it all on Ridge Holland. And that's where we're going to start. Instead of doing a regular NXT review starting at the beginning of the show, I'm actually going to start with the main event. The end of the Chase University stable as Andre Chase loses to Ridge Holland. Now, before we really get into this, I do want to discuss that NXT got gutted 2023-2024 during the draft. They lost Carmelo Hayes, they lost Ilya Dragunov, they lost a couple of other pieces. Well, in the women's division, they lost a couple of pieces. But they was, Blair Davenport and Kiana James, but they was easily able to replace them. They have not been able to replace the men that they lost. They brought in Ethan Page. Ethan Page is incredibly mid. And that didn't quite work. Ethan Page was a passable, I wouldn't say he was a passable champion, but he's a passable performer. And they put the rocket to him as soon as he came in as a way to sort of establish him while they continued to build other stars. I think Ridge Holland ending Chase University, a 2-year-long storyline, at least 2 years, it is in a way NXT saying we're not going to get any free agents for a while. We have to actually build from within. And so they decided that Ridge Holland is the guy. That's a pretty big gamble, considering Ridge Holland's age, considering this position. Now, the match itself was probably the best Ridge Holland match I've ever seen. And it had a whole lot of hoopla in it. And they built it up throughout the night, did a really good job. Earlier in the night, they played the history of Chase University, showing a lot of clips of all the time they spent together. Andre Chase and Thea Hale and all the others. And then later, they did the old Chase U hype, where Andre Chase talked about, how Chase University is not conventional. He's been very hard on them, but he wouldn't take anything back because he's going to give Ridge Holland a Chase U size ass whooping, and he's going to win that NXT title. The match, what really elevated the match, what really elevated and helped the match, is that there were people in the crowd wearing Chase University merchandise. That really helped. You saw people in the crowd, and they looked like they really did care about Chase U. Maybe they gave them that merchandise as they came to the door. Who knows? That's the magic of television. But it seemed like people really did care about Chase U. And throughout the night, throughout the match rather, it was hot as if people really cared about Chase University. Ridge Holland got booed out of the building, biggest heel reaction of the night. And this is before the bell even rang. The match in and of itself was fine. It really picked up when Ridge Holland goes outside the ring to get a chair. The ref takes the chair away from him. While the ref's back is turned, Ridge Holland kicks Andre Chase in the nuts. He hits his finish, 1-2. Duke Hudson yanks the referee out of the ring. Now, that's all he did to the ref was yank him out of the ring. And then the ref was gone for several minutes as Duke Hudson attacked Ridge Holland. And then Ridge Holland ultimately ended up tackling Duke Hudson through the wall, which was crazy. Not a very convincing looking wall, but at least it wasn't, construction paper like it was on AEW. As he's menacing Thea Hale, Riley Osborne jumped over the top rope onto Ridge Holland, but he also hit Thea Hale, knocked Thea Hale down. Then Riley started attacking Ridge Holland. Ridge, of course, fights back, bench presses Riley, and throws him on the concrete floor outside the ring, which is, it was pulled up by Andre Chase, by Ridge Holland earlier in the night. So Riley is down, Thea is down, and Duke Hudson is down. Andre Chase starts to fight back. Things start looking pretty good. He's fired up. Andre Chase does a crossbody from the top rope. Ridge catches him, rolls through, and then does his cradle DDT for the 3 count. And Chase University is over. This is by far the best match I've ever seen Ridge Holland in. And there was a lot of hoopla in it. All the run-ins and everything. But it was an incredibly fun match with really high stakes. You know, if you're invested in NXT, if you like the brand, and I do. If you know how long Chase U has been around, and I do. It was a fun way to end the storyline. They all worked together. They all failed. So it wasn't that Andre Chase went out there by himself and lost. Everybody helped. Everybody got a piece of this L, all right? So it was fun, you know. It is kind of a sad ending, but it's also when you kill something, you allow other things to grow. And you can say that Chase University has gone around so long. It's been 2 years straight. For Thea, at least. She's been in the storyline for at least 2 years. That it's time to do something else. You know? And this is a way of, again, NXT decided we need to rebuild our men's division, because the men's division has been the weaker part of NXT now. Is nobody really cares what the guys are doing. Well, you got a couple of guys tied up here in this Chase University story. Let's break them up. You know, you got Thea Hale in this Chase University angle. Let's send her into the regular women's division, which, you know, she did a really good job especially during NXT 2.0, that era, when she was, you know, fighting Tiffany Stratton, especially. She can fit in with the rest of these girls, you know. So this was a pretty big gamble, both in kayfabe and outside of kayfabe. And I like how they fit it into Andre Chase's gambling habit. You know, they revealed earlier this year or later last year that Andre Chase had a gambling habit and he was in debt to Tony D'Angelo, and they were going to take Chase U away from him. But this time he bet it all and lost. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some kind of repercussions from this. Maybe he's going to try to rebuild it. And I think at that point, you can't rebuild it. You can't get the fans back involved with this. You have to follow through with your stakes. So maybe a week or two of story about where's everybody going to go? What is everybody going to do? How are they going to matriculate into the regular NXT roster away from this particular angle? Do you start repackaging people immediately? You can always reform them outside of Chase University as a different kind of stable, I would suppose. So there's a lot of things you could do, but I'm 100% okay with Chase University being destroyed. Ridge Holland being the guy to do it is probably what I will question. But Shawn and I guess Triple H, they believe in him, you know, and he's a big dude, and that's very helpful. But my thing is, knowing that he's in this position, does that mean that you put the belt on him? Because now he's the number one contender. He's going to be fighting Trick Williams at Deadline. And now this is the number one heel in NXT. You know, I don't think anybody's going to have as much heat in NXT as Ridge Holland for destroying the beloved Chase University. So this is going to be very interesting, because do you feed that to Trick Williams and hope that Trick can, you know, can take it to the next level? Or do you continue with your plan of building new stars by putting the belt on Ridge Holland? Now, if we hadn't had that time in between, Trick losing the belt to Ethan Page, I probably would be more pushing for Ridge Holland to win the title. Because it does feel like Trick Williams is a guy who, he's got the belt, but he needs something. He needs something to sink his teeth into, and he doesn't have that yet. And this Ridge Holland thing, I don't think it's enough. Maybe if Ridge wins the belt, it will be. But I don't think that Ridge Holland is going to be able to carry the brand. So I appreciate that they're trying to build somebody new. And they're trying to do different things with, Duke Hudson and Riley and Thea and Andre Chase. I appreciate all of that. Just not sure that Ridge Holland is going to be the guy for the future. But I like Ridge Holland. I know that a lot of people are still upset with him about the Big E thing, but, Owen Hart dropped Stone Cold Steve Austin on his head. It happens, There have been quite a few guys who have injured other people, and they had to work through it. They're leaning into a Ridge Holland. That could be really helpful. But I just want to say, personally, I love the angle. I thought it was fantastic. And Ridge Holland he's got to go out there and show and prove now. They're betting it all on him, so he's got to deliver. Now, let's talk about the Iron Survivor. Let's talk about the men's side. Nathan Frazer defeats Eddie Thorpe. This match was also quite fun, not because of what was going on in the ring, though, but because they had a brawl go on outside the ring that the crowd was really into. Nathan Frazer earlier said that he wasn't really concerned about the tag team division, but Axiom was. And then you had all the tag team wrestlers basically watching this match from various cubby holes around the arena. And then they slowly but surely made their way to ringside, where a brawl began. Eddie Thorpe kicked Axiom in the head for literally no good reason, because he wasn't even trying to fight him. Then he got in the ring. Nathan Frazer beat him with the Phoenix Splash. It was a crappy Phoenix Splash because he didn't hit anything. I think maybe his legs fell on Eddie Thorpe's head. But that was it. So Nathan Frazer is in the Iron Survivor match. There's a strong case to be made that Nathan Frazer could be a pretty good babyface singles wrestler, or maybe even a pretty good heel singles wrestler, depending on how they choose to go about that. But he's of average size and he's flippy, so that puts him in this. He's like Wesley except white, that's pretty much it. Just like Wiley Osborne, same thing. Eddie Thorpe was pretty upset about this loss. He wanted a second chance because there was a bunch of run-ins during his match. Ava said that she can't do anything about that because, nobody touched him. And so he got an attitude, so now he's mad. So the NXT Tatanka, what I used to call the LGBT Tatanka, he's pretty upset. There's nothing he can do about it. Too bad, bro. Got to take it on the chin, which I'm sure you're used to. Okay, so we find out later that Axiom is also going to be in the Iron Survivor Challenge qualifier, and his opponent will be Ethan Page. So Nathan Frazer is, surprised that Axiom is taking up the challenge because Axiom had such a bad attitude that he was entering the tournament or entering into the Iron Survivor. But Axiom wants to do more. I hate that they still got this mask on this guy. Look, I know that a kid looks like he's 14, but just make him grow a beard. Take that stupid mask off his face, especially if you're not selling them as merchandise, which I don't think they are. Take those stupid masks off his face. There's so many guys that you should throw a mask on. I'm not sure he's one of them. I would imagine Ethan Page is going to win that match because they built him up as being basically the top level heel in the company, male heel. Next, I guess, maybe third to Ridge Holland And I guess Andre Chase is going to be one of the top heels now. But okay, I would prefer it if Ethan Page wasn't in it, but he probably will be. The Women's Iron Survivor Challenge match, those matches on the show were a little bit more interesting. The first match was Jada Parker versus Stephanie Vaquer. And this was easily Jada Parker's best match, in my opinion, in terms of her in-ring work. She looked a little lost, just a little bit, but she's only been wrestling about a year or so. So I know a lot of people get really brutal on NXT talent, But when you consider most of the people who you see on this television show, they don't have 10 years of experience. Rich Holland, they people brutalize him, but he started wrestling when he joined NXT UK. I think that was in 2018, 2019, maybe 2020. So he don't have like 15 years under his belt or whatever. So him being sort of a mid wrestler is like, he's still growing. Even though I think he's up there in age. He probably started wrestling a little bit late. But Jada Parker she's getting it. She's built like a grown woman though, and her body is just no joke. When she's standing next to Stephanie Vaquer, I mean, she looks like a fully grown adult person. Stephanie Vaquer is very fast, very fluid. This match was going very well, and then here comes Lola Vice. She just saunters down the ramp. She's got a brick. It distracts Jada Parker, and Jada Parker basically just walks into the underhook backbreaker, which is the finish for Stephanie Vaquer. I would have preferred Jada Parker to get into this match because I feel like she's one of the stars of NXT. I also feel the same about Lola Vice, and both of them are not in it, which I'm not a fan of. I would have preferred both of them be in it. I think you should showcase these girls as much as possible. The question remains, however, are they going to be left off the card totally, or are they going to get their own match on the show? Because if you're going to give Jada Parker her own match with Lola Vice on the show, then fine. She didn't need to win this match. But if they're not going to be on the show at all, and they're going to wrestle like the go home show or the show afterwards or something like that, I don't think that's the best way to do it. Because I think Jada Parker is like one of your most marketable stars. And I think Lola Vice is pretty damn marketable too. And I don't just mean they have big booties. I mean they appeal to fans. Not just because they have big booties. They have personality. So the second Iron Survivor Challenge for the women was Zarya defeating Ren Sinclair. It was pretty academic. Zarya is being booked as the monster, even though she probably sells a little too much to be booked like a monster. She took a tope suicida, which was pretty sweet. She gave a pretty sweet spear, but I'm kind of tired of everybody using a spear in wrestling. I wish we could just retire that move. Or spears, super kicks, DDTs, Canadian destroyers. I'm tired of looking at all of these. Everybody having the same moves is pissing me off. I can't stand it. Somebody needs to write down on a sheet of paper, no spears. Only person who can use the spear is Roman Reigns because he uses it as a finish. Everybody else, do something else. A body block, a running headbutt, a running knee smash, or something. Everybody can't do the spear, goddammit. There's just too many people using the spear. But the Women's Iron Survivor is actually going to get even more interesting because next week, Julia, who did a vignette on the show talking about how much she's learning and how she started, in wrestling without having any combat sports experience, that she brings chaos and creativity to WWE. I was like, that's interesting. Chaos and creativity. I guess you could be like Jeff Hardy. But she got challenged directly by Kalani Jordan, who said she wants to beat the best. And so she wants to fight Julia in an Iron Survivor qualifier. This is a fantastic right here. Kalani Jordan got made fun of on the internet recently because of her attempt to do something creative. She did like a rolling shooting star press, which is of course a variation of the Rolling Thunder. It doesn't make sense because she does have to stop completely to flip in the other direction. But she's, again, she hasn't only been in the business 2 years. You see all of these, indie guys who do this kind of stuff. They've been around 10 years. They do things that don't make sense. But she's just going out there trying stuff, man. But I'm okay with this. I like this. I don't expect Kalani to win, even though I would prefer Kalani be involved. But there can only be 5. They seem to be giving Kalani a bit of an edge. I would have liked for her. I mean, I guess you don't really want her to be a bitching, complaining, whining babyface, because she got cheated last week and it was obvious cheating, and she didn't, complain about it. She just kind of like, moving on to the next thing, which is, I guess, one way of looking at things. But I would have liked for her to at least make some kind of argument, or for Ava to try to say, hey, I know what happened last week, yada, 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 I'll figure this out some way. And then she could say, well, forget it. Moving on. I want to fight Julia or whatever. So Julia, I expect to win. But to not have Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, or Jada Parker in the Iron Survivor match so far, it's kind of janky, bro. Because all of these girls are talented. And look, this is the fault of NXT for having so many talented young ladies at one time, is that so many of them don't make the cut, So I'm kind of surprised Cora Jade isn't in it as well, but they're probably going to have some kind of second chance battle royal or something for the last spot, which, ought to be nice. But I'm really looking forward to Julia and Kalani Jordan. That ought to be fun. So that's the bulk of the show. Then there was these other bits, such as NXT getting some money to promote college football. There's a college football game on the CW. I guess it's going to be Washington State versus, what's that other state? Washington State and Oregon State. Who cares about that? But anyway, they found a way to fold this into their mixed tag team match. Dion Lennox and Brindley Reese versus Carmen Petrovich and Ashanti Theodonis. Now, this was actually kind of fun in terms of the outside the ring stuff. Inside the ring, I mean, it was what it was. It was pretty flat. But Carmen and Adonis are hilariously kind of finding their way to each other, I guess you could say. This is the soap opera stuff people hate so much about NXT, but I think it's so funny. So they keep magnetizing towards each other like they're going to kiss or something, and then some random person would come in between them. Like after the match, the referee stood in between them to raise their arms, and then after the match they were talking, and then Nikita Lyons this is number one hating material right here. She told Ashanti Theodonis that she's still waiting on his text back, and Carmen Petrovich got mad. It was so funny. It was so random. I thought that was great. This is silly. This is just absolutely silly. I love silly stuff like this. So they're finding ways to keep these two apart. So now Ashanti Theodonis, he went from having a girlfriend, because like, what happened to her? What happened to his girl? He had a girlfriend not too long ago, and now he's trying to get with Takeda, which is something else. That's a whole different ball game right there, brother. But he kind of got eyes for Carmen, and he about to start playing the Temptations in a minute. About to start, next time you look at them, they're gonna be playing the Isley Brothers. Ought to be something. But I didn't really care about that match. Tony D'Angelo defeats Brooke Jensen. I didn't care about this either, especially because Shawn Spears was involved. Tony D'Angelo injured his leg in the match, which gave, of course, Brooke Jensen a target. After Tony D'Angelo wins with the spine buster, Shawn Spears offered a handshake, and once Tony D'Angelo took it, Brooks Jensen chop blocked him from behind. So Tony D'Angelo got mad, challenged Shawn Spears to a match next week, and Ava accepted it. So I got to deal with that bum being in the ring. That sawed off bum. Low calorie bum. So the tag team brawl that was going on in the first segment was still going on 4 or 5 segments later. And Lexis King is talking about being his best self to this Japanese guy. I think his name is Inamura. And Inamura is just staring at him. Like, I'm not sure if he fully understood him. But Lexis King thanked him for listening without any kind of judgment. And then Josh Briggs is like, what's going on here? And he says NXT is a crazy place. And then it's a brawl as all the tag team guys are still fighting. And then he says, it's my kind of crazy. I was like, okay. I don't know anything about this Japanese guy. He hasn't done anything yet, but he's hanging out with Josh Briggs, which is not fun for me. Because I mean, I have to look at Josh Briggs. So that's no good. Roxanne Perez is on vacation. Her vacation is crashed by Sol Ruka, who was out there surfing. And, that was interesting. Are they teasing that Sol Ruka is going to win the Iron Survivor? Oh boy, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? So, the only other big segment on the show is the Fallon Henley Fatal Influence segment. I like this. This was fun. So, basically, Fallon Henley says that she could sit pretty as a champion, or she could be a fighting champion. So, she decided that she's going to have an open challenge next week. Lash Legend answered the challenge, and so did Nikita Lyons, who told Lash Legend to sit on the back of the bus. Get to the back of the line. Then Adrian Rizzo attacked Nikita Lyons from behind, and a brawl ensued. So now we went from generic tag team brawling to now generic women's division brawling. So now all of these girls are fighting each other in a hump. I can't tell who from who. Various girls are coming out of nowhere. I have no idea what's going on. Fallon Henley is just standing in the ring with the belt. She's the only one in the ring. JC Jane has disappeared. Jasmine Nix has disappeared. Why did they leave the ring? Where did they go? Why do they care about this stuff? Anyway, when they left the ring, Tatum Paxley attacked Fallon Henley from behind, dropped her with, I don't know what that move is called. I have no idea. But she ends up being the one that gets the match. So Tatum Paxley will wrestle Fallon Henley next week for the women's North American title. I'm okay with this because I know Fallon Henley is not going to win. This is an open challenge format, which is quite frankly one of the easiest things to book is open challenges, especially if you have a lot of decent contenders. Because it don't require a storyline, and then you can always build up somebody to win the open challenge. The idea that Lash Legend or Nikita Lyons could have been the opponent. Well, Nikita Lyons is not going to be the opponent. She's a heel, and she's apparently still feuding with Adrian Rizzo. And Lash Legend, I actually thought it might be her. The issue with that though is, do you really want Lash Legend, who now actually is starting to get good and is starting to get a higher profile, do you really want her to lose? I would imagine that Lash Legend is probably going to end up in the Iron Survivor match, maybe. If they even have that opportunity for her. Which the question would be, why wouldn't they? I think if you look at the hierarchy, then Lash Legend is one of those characters that is featured enough that if she can make it to pay-per-view and it would be completely logical. So it would be interesting. Still don't expect her to win, but I would expect her to get in it. I think there's got to be at least 1 or 2 more spots open for the women. And maybe it's going to be her and Nikita fighting for it, or maybe Nikita and Rizzo going to fight for it or something. But that ought to be interesting. But I think Izzy Dane was out there too. It's like a bunch of people. I have no idea what's going on. So that's pretty much NXT on the face of it. Extremely fun show. If you've been watching NXT for a while, you probably enjoyed the hell out of this. It was a delightful show as usual. I'm interested in what we do next with Chase University. I'm interested in where, if Ridge Holland is the guy that they apparently think that he is he going to win the belt? I'm I'm not all that interested in the generic brawling of the tag team division since none of these teams actually stand out, which is completely different from the women's generic brawling because Lash Legend has stood out and Nikita Lyons does stand out. But a lot of the other women, not so much. Like the Izzy Dames, not so much. But I guess it's something. So I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do going forward and how they're going to build this card after the Iron Survivor challenges are done. Because there has to be other matches on the show. And I would imagine one of those is going to be the Tag Team Championship match. And another one's going to be the NXT title match. And it doesn't seem like Roxanne Perez is going to defend her title at all. So maybe Fallon Henley would defend hers. But let me know what you guys think about NXT. I'll talk to you guys later.